Welcome back to Redneck's Dirty Hands. I'm Pete, and today we're not working on any of the fun projects like the side-by-side builds or any of that, or, playing around with our snowmobiles. Today, unfortunately, we got to work on an actual paying job, something that pays the bills so we can build the side-by-side stuff and all that. But although I don't really think this is technically a paying job, that truck there belongs to my buddy Remington that also owned that the 1100 turbo that I did the full chain case rebuild and all that stuff on it. Apparently, now that he's got that the Polaris XCR there, he's in love with that and don't want that 1100 anymore, so wants me to take it and work off the deal. So apparently, I'm doing this work for free to end up with a turbo 1100. So pitter patter, let's get at her. Nah, I don't mind doing the barter system, doing deals like that. You know what? He supplies the parts, I supply the labor, and then that 1100 turbo becomes free 99 to me. I need another turbo sled like I need a hole in the head, but I just can't say no. Although he is definitely kind of taking advantage of the situation because it originally started out, he just wanted brakes on it. And I was like, yeah, no problem, drop it off. And then he's like, I picked up an airbag kit for it too. Yeah, all right. And then when he drops it off, he's like, oh, and if you get some extra time, there's a box in there with some other stuff. So obviously, belts and other jazz in there. And next thing he needs to drop off is a case of freaking beer. I mean, the bugger's got that's his race car number in the back window, 47, although he says it's his race car number. I'm pretty sure that's how many times he's been kicked out of the track. Little fella's got a bit of a mouth and a temper on him, It's funny how he's got his race car number on there, but not a Redneck's Dirty Hands sticker, Mr. Remington. She's going to be leaving with one. Anywho, so I figure, just as a filler video, why not do a how-to on the airbag? I'm pretty sure most of you know how to install brakes and all that stuff on your trucks or whatnot, but I'll throw them on. And then those airbag, the lift kit there, it's not really a lift kit, it's the helper spring, right? So this is just a half ton, and obviously he plans on towing more than half a ton. So he needs a little bit of a boost for the rear suspension there. So those things there turn your half ton into a, 3/4 ton-ish. You can put the heavy girls in the back, right? By putting this airbag kit in there, you kind of get the best of both worlds, I guess. You get the nice ride of the half ton, when you're just regular driving around. And then if you want to hook up a camper trailer or something like that, you can air up those airbags and it'll take the heavy load, you know what I mean? But everybody knows if you're going to do some serious hauling, you get yourself a big dirty diesel Cummins, 6 in a row, ready to tow, baby. Or you can get yourself a pretty white GMC with 8 in the V and probably sit down to pee. Settle down, Remington. I'm just joking around with you. But I mean, I did have a Silverado of my own before I got the raw dog, the big dirty Dodge there. And, it was a great truck for driving around, going out for ice cream with the kids and, the missus and all that. But as a heavy hauler, it was not, you definitely need the airbags and these things if you're going to hook up a big old heavy camper trailer or whatnot. And power-wise, mine had the 5.3. It wasn't too bad. I think this one, he's got the bigger motor in there. She's pushing over 400 horse, 450, something like that. He said he's got a tune in there, but he's compensating, I guess. So he needs the airbags in there so he can do some heavy hauling, go camping, all that jazz. And yeah, let's throw the brakes on there. Should be straightforward. And then we'll open up that box. And it's been a while since I put a set of airbags on something. There's a bunch of brackets and hardware and all that stuff. This is the Manuel kit, no air onboard compressor or anything like that. Just going to put the airlines, run them probably to the license plate or a bracket or the trailer hitch or something like that, drill a couple holes. You can just chuck them up with the air. Psst, psst, lifts her up. Tickety-boo. I mean, it's pretty handy. He supplies all his stuff. I don't usually use these brands of rotors, whatnot. I get all my stuff typically from UAP Napa. But these Bosch pads, I opened it up. I mean, you get your typical, the stainless hardware for the caliper brackets and all that. But when they give you the pads all wrapped up in a nice little shop rag and everything, like that is just super handy. And you get a little bit of lube in there. Nice one. And then these days, it's nice. All these premium rotors come, they got like a coating on there because I don't know about anywhere else, but here in Ontario with all the salt and the crap they put on the roads, like the brakes just rust up and seize in a heartbeat. So it's nice to have the coated rotors. 9 times out of 10, if you got brake issues with your vehicle, it's because the pads get stuck in the caliper brackets and the holders, because where these clips go in, the bracket will rust up, and then it just pinches the pads in the holder, and they won't actually apply the way they're supposed to. So then you get premature wear out of your brakes. So we're gonna peel everything off of this. Hopefully I can find his lock socket in here. We'll get her up, get the wheels off, swap the brakes, and then we'll tackle the airlift kit. And then we'll see how the day goes. I don't know if we'll tackle whatever he's got in here too. You're gonna owe me a beer at least, buddy. First things first, we got her set up on the hoist. We got to lift her up, and I found the lock socket. It was actually in the center console of his truck and not in his junk drawer at home. So thanks, buddy. It's the worst when people drop their vehicles off, you know, whether they want a tire rotation or brakes or anything to do where you got to pull the wheels off, and it's got these stupid lock sockets. We don't live in Detroit, you know, nobody's stealing your rims and tires in Ontario here, but every mechanic's got something in their toolbox for getting these lug nuts off, because guaranteed, I'm not the only one that's run into the situation where you can't find this socket to get them off. All right, I like to lift it up about this high. It's a good working height for me anyway. And then let's peel these wheels off of here. Now, I pretty much use this Milwaukee, the M18 impact gun off the Mack truck there. These things are freaking monsters. You know, I used to use the air gun all the time like everybody else and whatnot, and I was pretty skeptical moving over to an electric impact. I was like, how good can it be? Oh, game changer. These things got so much freaking power. But I don't put the wheels back on. I still use my air impact gun I got the torque limiting sockets or extensions. I don't trust this thing to put them on because I'm pretty sure it would snap them. That, and if you try and use those freaking torque adapters with the electric impact gun, just rattles your fillings when it's vibrating. Get this sucker off of here. And these brakes look perfectly fine, Remington. Why are we changing them? Oh my God. Because he's getting free labor, that's why, I bet. Yeah, like these rear rotors are looking nice and smooth, and I mean, the pads look fairly thick. Nothing looks like it's wearing out uneven or anything like that. And I mean, carrying on to the front here, you know, those rotors are looking pretty good. And then like you can even see the inside pad there, like that's easily 10 mil thick. I mean, you only need 1.5 mil for safety in Ontario here, but I can feel on the backside there is a bit of unevenness. There's a rust ridge going down on the inside here, probably about this far. So, I mean, yeah, okay, I get it. We could put some new rotors and pads on there, you know, but I mean, so far, you know what? A blind man would love to see these, but we'll freshen them up. Does he really need brakes on this thing? I would say kind of no, but more peace of mind kind of thing. He's got the parts. He'll know what it's like. He did just get this truck not too long ago. It's new to him, so at least he'll know where he stands with it. And we got to get the value of this sled down by doing the barger system. So the brakes are going on. So we're going to carry on with life and take these brakes all apart for him, get them all swapped out. But before you do, the way the brakes work is, you know, every time you press on the pedal, it pushes the piston out in the calipers, which squeezes the pads to the rotors. So to put new pads and rotors on there, you got to push those pistons back. So we can do it before we take them off. But before you push those pistons back, you kind of want to always pop the hood and pop the cap off the master cylinder there because, you know, these brakes aren't really worn down, so they're not really going to be pushing the pistons back that far. But I mean, if you got a set of brakes that are worn right out and those pistons are pushed all the way out, if you just go ahead and start pushing those pistons back, well, there's going to be a bunch of air in that master cylinder, the reservoir there, and that's got to go somewhere. And I have seen it cause a leak, so just break the cap loose so the air can escape out there. I've seen caliper seals leak because of it. Just food for thought, you know. You know, these front calipers, they got the nice little windows in here so you can see your pad thickness and all that, but you can also get access to the rotor there. So before even undoing anything, you can take a pry bar, get it in there, catch the edge of the rotor, and then you just pull over. Oh, yeah. These are dual piston calipers, so we'll hit the bottom one too, just to make sure we pull it over even. What that does is it forces this whole caliper assembly this way. So we're on the slide pins there, so it compresses all that. And then that way, you can see we got movement there. So when we undo this, those pistons are already be pushed back. These rear calipers on this truck, however, no little windows, so you can't do the same thing. We got to do something different. And that's where I like these adjustable head pry bars I got off the Mack truck there. We set a fairly steep angle on it, and then I can just grab, we got the edge of the pad right there. So I just grab that sucker there up against the rotor and then just push just like so. Same thing on the bottom, just to make sure it's pushed back evenly. Then after you do that, you can see, look at that, she's moving. Perfect. So now we can go ahead, unbolt the calipers all the way around, and then we got to take the brackets off too, and then we'll get the rotors off, swap them all out. All right, so I undo the two bolts going into the slide pins. There's 13 mil on this one, so a little ratchet wrench. Oh, of course. The whole pin's spinning there. Yeah, the pin's spinning, so we gotta get a pair of vice grips and hold that. Just grab a pair of the needle nose vice grips. Gotta love these things, man. Best tool ever made. Just hold the pin so we can crack that bolt loose. Same thing with the bottom one. Just like so. And this guy should slide right off of there. We'll set him up there for now. Check our pads. Looks mint. This one looks mint. That's one of the biggest problems. You know, these ones are nice and loose, flopping around. They're not stuck in there. But what'll happen is, especially here, like I said, in Ontario with all the salt and sand and crap, is these guys here get wedged in the holder, so they lock and they don't slide over like they should. So you're not actually applying the brakes with full force, and then your rotors get all rusted and uneven. You'll get like a shaky brake pedal, or these things get stuck and they drag. So every time you clamp it, they're not releasing and relaxing, and then you end up burning your pads out. So a lot of the times, anytime you're getting an oil change done, you know, maybe have a brake inspection just to free up, make sure your pads are floating around in these holders here, because that's the biggest cause of premature brake failure or premature brake wear is, you know, they just get rusted up, stuck. And nowadays, with the cost of everything, like brake parts and all that, the price of everything's just going through the freaking roof. So it's worth it to just have them serviced, because I mean, geez, a regular brake job nowadays is like $1,000 on anything. So who the heck wants to pay that? Oh, 18 mil bolts for these brackets. Geez, they're tight. Oh, hold on. Got to back you up a bit. I need some room to maneuver here. Holy. Oh, yeah. Jesus. And you can't get a freaking impact gun back in here on them, so it makes it a bit of a bugger. So always go with the Johnson bar and a short or a shallow socket so you get the most leverage on it. Crack them suckers loose and switch over to a nice little ratchet wrench. Speed things up. It's a beauty part about trucks with leaf springs. You get your own nice little shelf up here for all your tools and bolts. Tickety-boo. Then we got the caliper bracket in hand. Like, look at the rust on these things, right? But anytime you're doing your brakes, you want to check these pins. These guys season here. Oh, that one's nice. Oh yeah, just like that. That's a good pin. And as far as getting these rear rotors off, these ones, they're deep dish like this because the parking brakes are inside. It's a little drum parking brake setup in here, which is the worst freaking idea they ever came up with. They're a pain in the butt. They seize up, and they're just terrible. So if you got rusted up rotors and all that, good freaking luck getting these off without destroying the parking brakes in here. You do have two threaded holes in the face of this, so you can run bolts in to put pressure on it. If you get a ridge built up on the inside of the drum part of this that goes over top of the shoes for the parking brake. So if you go to pull this off, it ends up pulling the shoes with it, which rips the hold down tabs out of the backing plate. Everything, your hardware goes everywhere. So 9 times out of 10, you got to try and get in there and back the parking brakes off to get them away from that ridge. And then I usually just give them a 45-degree smack on the edge like that. If it vibrates, it pops it off. These ones are not stuck, which is a bonus. Oh, looks like everything is brand new in here. But yeah, there you can see, that's the threaded hole in the rotor for putting a bolt in there. It'll push up against the axle flange, pop them off. Everything is looking beautiful in here. But yeah, on the inside of the rotor face, you can see we got a little bit of a rust ridge starting to form top and bottom, which is pretty common around this area here. And then you can see the rust forming in the drum part of this rotor for the parking brake. This one doesn't have much of a ridge developing on it, but this truck is a 2015. I'm pretty sure these have been replaced. And normally the stock ones have like the steel little thing that holds the rotors on. So yeah, these have definitely been changed once and they're getting changed again. But all the parking brake hardware and the shoes are all looking mint. They look brand new. You know, it's got all the new hardware in here, springs. Everything is tight and right and looking good right there. So beauty. We don't have to mess around with any of that. And I mean, it's basically the exact same process on the front. The only thing that's different is these slide pins are held in with a 3/4 or 19 mil headed bolt there. But, you know, it's the exact same thing. Smack that sucker loose. See, these ones are coming out by hand. And because we've already push the pistons back by sliding the caliper, should slide right off. Set it right up here. Well, let's see, these ones, they were a little tighter in the bracket, and you can kind of see, well, I don't know if you can see that. You can see the rust build up and the dirt on these ends there. That's what ends up locking these things in from slide. And oh yeah, and then see, you can see how even the face of this pad is. And then you can see this one, it's flat here, and then it's got a bit of a ridge there. So it was not flat or even. Get our breaker bar back out with the 18 mil on there. Get this bracket off. Oh, Jesus. You're definitely gonna have some strength to you to get these freaking things undone, I tell ya. Oh yeah. No problem. Just like so. And typically, you know, around here, these things would be locked right on, so you'd have to get on the backside with a big old dirty sledgehammer and pound the crap out of them to get them off. Yeah, there's the inside face of the front rotor, and you can see that hefty ridge starting to develop on the outside edge and a little bit on the inside edge there. But that's mainly because those pads are kind of hanging up and they're not getting a full contact on here. So I guess it is good that we're going to be putting all new brakes on here for him, so he'll have the peace of mind, and he'll be able to stop, no problem. Just clamp these guys into the vise. A lot of the times the biggest problem is these slide pins seize into the bracket here. Fortunately for us, aren't seized in there. They are sliding nice. So you always want to, when you got them out, give them a bit of a wipe down. And then I've got this stuff here. I got off a Red Stallion. That right there is Super Lube. I'm guessing this is the automotive world's equivalent to KY, because this is some slippery stuff. Brush that on there. Work her in a few times. Put a little more on there. Oh, yeah. Oh, listen to that. Get her nice and lubed up. We do not want these guys to seize up. Beautiful. Then we pull these stainless steel, the shims, the hardware that the pads slide into. So then you got these channels here that those shims go into, and the problem is these build up with rust underneath them, which then lifts the shim away from the bracket and then tightens it up on the pads. So we got to clean all the rust out of there, and then I usually hit them with a grinder and then a little bit of paint just to seal it up, and then put the new shims in there. My favorite way of cleaning these grooves out here is this is a rigid 2-inch cookie or arbor there. This is all diamond coated or whatever. So the whole face is, this edge is, and then a little bit of the backside is. So which means I can put the backside up against this edge here and clean that no problem. I can hit every single surface in there with this one tool, which is perfect. So let's get that cleaned out. When you're using tools like this, you definitely got to engage your safety squints because there's going to be shrapnel flying everywhere. And that way when you're done, she's all clean. All the rust is out of there. And then just take some whatever spray paint you got laying around. I've got some Rust-Oleum black here. I just hit that all up in there just to give it a coat and kind of hopefully stop it from rusting. You know, it's not going to stop it completely, but, you know, hopefully for the life of the pads here, or at least until the next service interval. Then we pop a new stainless steel shim in there. And we take our new stainless steel hardware there, snap them into place. They can only really go one way. They got a little tab in here. There's a notch in here. You just drop that into it. Keeps it centered, just like so. And then the way these shims work, you got these little springs here. Once you put your pad in, they help push the pad away from the rotor. And then you got these little tabs. Once you put your pad in here, they kind of lock them in. So holds them in place. And then these guys help push them back. So let's just make sure, well, we got these off of the truck. Make sure the pads actually fit in there and they move nice and free. The only other thing you got to keep in mind or pay attention to is the pads. They are different on the front anyway. The inside one is quite a bit. It's got this ledge on there and the squealer tab. So you got to want to make sure, pay attention when you're going to put them in, that you put them in the right spot. Let me just hook those guys in. Oh, they're moving nice and free. I mean, you can if you want, you know, we can put a little bit of super lube on here too, just to make sure that they move nice and free in there. But there's plenty of room in there. The springs are springing them back. This will be beauty. She'll be mint. We have got our beauty set of coated rotors here. Slide these suckers on. And once I slip that on, I mean, usually would have the bolts to bolt these on, but we don't have any of that hardware. So I like to take, this is just an old drive bearing from one of the sleds there. I just like to bolt that on just to hold the rotor true and flat. Makes it easier for putting the bracket on. And that way we've got our caliper bracket with our pads all ready to go. Get these bolts started. Everything's going together nice and smooth. Get these guys all snug down, and then there is a torque spec for it. I mean, tight's tight, you know. You don't want to let Urkel freaking tighten them, you know. You want to give them a bit of a good crank, or ugga-duggas if you can get a gun on there. I just we'll get her cinched down. Those right there are tight and right. And then, did we get these pistons pushed back far enough with the little bar? No, we didn't. All right. So, if you didn't get the pistons pushed back as far as they need to go, here's another tool. We didn't get the pistons all the way back in the bores. They're sticking out a little bit, so that won't clearance over top of the new thick brake pads. So, I mean, you could use a C-clamp or, you know, big pair of channel locks to push those in. You kind of want to stay away from that. Some of the, like the Dodges and all that, their pistons, some of them are ceramic. So if you get a pair of jaws on there and you go squeezing on it, you can chip them and break the pistons. So I've got a tool here. We're just going to throw the old pads back in there to take some slack. And then this right here is a brake pad presser backer thingy. I've had this for a while. I had a cheesy handle on her. She broke off, so I just clamped a pair of vice grips on there. This guy drops in between the pads, And we just crank her, spreads them apart, which pushes the pistons back in the caliper. This is kind of a good way of telling, you know, if you're going to be doing the brakes on it, you pull it all off. You should be able to push these pistons back easily. It should not take a lot of force for them to move back. If it is taking a lot of force to push them back in there, your caliper's junk. You need to rebuild it or replace it. And now those are definitely more flush with the back of the caliper there. So now she should slip right on there. Just like so, or as I like to say, tickety-boo. And then cinch them down. Same thing, they don't have to be crazy freaking tight, but give them a good snugging. I don't know how many times I've seen vehicles come in with these bolts missing and then the caliper hinging off. You know, somebody either forgot to put them in or just didn't tighten them up to what they should be. I mean, you can look up the torque specs online, you know. The internet, it's good for stuff like that. Google and all. Boom. One wheel, ready to go back on. And it's all the same stuff going on in the back. We got to put our new coated rotor on there. The only thing you might have to do is adjust your park and brake there. But these ones here, because everything was basically new on this, it is actually nice and snug sliding on there. So I don't think we've got to adjust anything there. I don't have to put a nut to lock this in. It's sitting over top of those shoes, so it's holding it fairly straight. Same thing, I've already ground out and painted the tabs on here. So same thing, we just got to take our stainless steel shims, clip them down into here. Let's get them all locked in. I already put the super lube on the slide pins. Get these bolts snugged right up. Oh, don't need a torque wrench. Pretty sure I heard my elbow click there. Nice one. Oh, beauty. Snug as a bug in a rug. Same thing. You get one brake pad that has the squealer tab. The other one does not. So I just take the old one. You can see the rust from where the piston was. So this was the inside pad. Squealer tabs right there. Match her up. That's the one we'll use. We'll put a little bit of the super lube on the point where it's going to be sliding in the bracket. This one on the outside. Oh, see that? See how it springs back? Oh, that's what you want. Oh, beauty. Those are moving free. Slide pins are moving free. Caliper. Oh, same thing. We didn't quite get her in far enough by prying her, so it's going to take one of the old brake pads and use my man hands and squeeze it back in. Oh, yeah. That should be enough now. Oh, tickety-boo. Look at that. That right there is what you call a nice one. And then that is brake installation and service. I won't bother showing the other side. It's just the exact same process as these ones. And then obviously before we go and put the wheels all back on this rig, we got total access here. This is where the airbag, the lift kit system is going to go. So we'll leave this wide open. We'll open up that box, figure out all the brackets and bolts and all that crap. And I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to take these bump stops out of there. And then, yeah, we'll get everything mocked up in place, and hopefully it doesn't take too long. All the brakes are on. That went fairly smooth. We got a pile of boxes and garbage on the floor there. But in that box there, there's 2 V-groove belts that he's got in there. Obviously, he wants me to put those on. Let's have a look at this here. I mean, he's got these 2 little V-groove belts here. They're Dacos. I don't even want to put those on. I mean, I'm an Ultimax man myself, you know, but he's supplying his own parts, so whatever, I'll put these on for him. But if it was my choice, I'd be looking to see if Ultimax made these belts. Now, you wouldn't think it'd be too bad to put these belts on, and like, why does it have 2 little belts? I mean, this thing's got 3 belts on. It's got your main serpentine belt, and then one of these is for the AC compressor, and the other one I think is for a vacuum pump or something like that. Dinky little belts, but that ain't the best part of it. No, sir. GMC, Chevrolet, you know, GM, those guys. No tensioners to tighten these things. Not only do you have to take the main belt off to get at these, because these are behind the main one that does have a tensioner and is easy to change. No, these ones are stretch fit. So there's no tensioner. You actually have to physically stretch this thing over the pulleys to get them on. So that's going to be fun. So yeah, as you can see, you got your main serpentine with an auto tensioner there. And I mean, this one's not too complicated. It just does the crank, goes around the tensioner up to the alternator. And then the water pump there, because this would be electronic power steering on this rig. So you got no power steering pump. The first one in behind it runs the AC compressor. And as you can see, there is 0 tensioner situation going on over there. And then way down in there, there is, I think that's the vacuum pump. So that one's the furthest back. So we got to pull this one off. Normally, I would say, you know, draw a little diagram just so you know which way it goes. But I mean, this outside belt only goes from the crank to the water pump over to the alternator and that. So that's pretty much straightforward. That one just goes from the crank to the AC compressor. The other one just goes from the crank to there. So how are you going to get those off, you may ask? Apparently with these fellas right here. So we've got these little wedge things. This one right here says remove right on it, and this one here says install. So honestly, you could just cut them off, you know, if you got new ones to put on. But if you don't have a new belt and you got to, you know, change the alternator or something, you're going to reuse the belt, then you got to be able to take it off without cutting it. And that's where these guys come in. So we got to hook this thing on there, and then we got to get on the crank, roll it over by hand, put a socket on there and a ratchet. And then we got to hook this onto the pulley, and that's going to go around, catch the belt, and then as it peels it off, it's going to spit that belt off of there. Or at least, so I've been told, that's what's going to happen. So, I mean, hey, we'll give her a go. First things first, we got to get the main serpentine belt off. So it's just looks like a 3/8 drive. Right here on the tensioner, I've got this serpentine tensioner tool with a bunch of different adapters on here. You can use just a regular ratchet if that's all you got. So basically, you just gotta crank that. It releases the tension on the belt. Peel the belt off of the alternator pulley. And of course, there we go. And then, get that belt out of the way. I'll have to find out what size the bolt is on the crank, and we'll get the other belts off. As far as I can tell, the bolt head on there is a 15/16. So I've got a socket on there. I need my remover. How the heck am I going to hold that on there and crank this from up here? This is not for short fellas, doing it up from top up here. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I just dropped the freaking thing. And guaranteed it's aluminum, so a magnet ain't gonna stick to it. Jesus. Okay, I got it. So hopefully I don't drop it again. We're gonna wedge it. Oh, I'm gonna drop it. Don't drop it. I dropped it. Oh, this is some bull crap, man. So basically what you gotta do is have 3 freaking arms. You need to hold that wedge thing on the edge of the pulley and under the belt, and then get it rolling over. Okay, I think it's wedged in there. So I don't know if you can see that. I've got the removal tool wedged in there in between the pulley and the belt. So now we should be able to crank this guy, and then you'll see that belt walk off that pulley. Just like so. Tickety-boo. And just like that, we got one belt off of there. So now I dropped the tool, so I got to go find that again. And then see if we can do the same thing on this one. That one, I can't even see the freaking belt on the back of the pulley. It's right in behind. So this one's going to be a little bit tricky, but hopefully we can get the same result. So fun fact, I'm trying to get this thing on top of that pulley so I can walk it around and pop that off. And wouldn't you know it, the bracket, or one of the brackets for the water pump or whatever up above that is hitting here. So this gets wedged in there and it will not travel all the way around that pulley to spit that off. So maybe I'm just going to cut that one off then. Before I go ahead and just cut it off, I ground a little bit off the top of this, just the tip, just to see if I can get it to clearance this thing. Oh, I think we got it. Yeah, we got her. There she goes, she's spitting off. Okay, so, can't remember where I bought these ones, but yeah, that ramp height was a little bit too high. It wouldn't clearance the bracket down in there. But now, boom, got that one off too. Now we just got to reverse the order and hopefully this installation 201 works and we can get it to go on. Hopefully. Okie dokie artichoke. So I got this install tool over here, but this seems like she's gonna be awfully freaking tight. I really don't know what the heck is gonna happen here. I mean, it looks like it's going. This is the dumbest thing ever. What was wrong with tensioners? I think it just went on. Come on. Okay. I think we're on. I know it's a little bit hard to see down in there. Hopefully you can see the other one better. I don't know if this one's going to go as smooth as the other one because that AC pulley is quite a bit thicker and more offset than what that vacuum one was. So, like, this is some bull crap. But we're going to try her anyway. Oh, you bugger. Oh my God. Okay, so I got all three belts back on there, and that's total gong show. These stretch fit belts are just ridiculous. The vacuum pump one down there wasn't too bad. I got these, I don't know what these are, stretch belt mate removal and installation tool, but the removal tool wouldn't fit or clearance the water pump housing on the crank there, so I had to grind that down. And then the installation tool one would not hold on to the crank. The groove in here was too small, so I had to carve it out and then cut the tab off so it had clearance to go around. And then that got on there. So, yeah, I mean, they still got the tensioner on for the main one, but then they get rid of the tensioners for those two. Like, I don't get it. But at least that part's done. I deserve a beer after that. Remember Remington. Cold Canadian. I'll take a case. Now that we've used up all those parts, let's get into this one. The Airlift Load Lifter 5000. I could use a lift here. I'm gonna need a hand to install this, I think. Hey girl! You gonna give me a hand, baby? Yeah, I can give you. Well, I gotta say, it is good to see you. I have been wrestling with this job. Those freaking stretch belts almost killed me, you know. It's thank God for beer. But let's open up this box and see. I'm hoping we don't have to do any drilling or modifications. Like, hopefully he did the right thing and bought a specific kit for a GMC. So it's just like, hey, bolt it in. So Well, right off the bat, the box says load lifter 5,000 and this says airlift 1,000. So, so we got all the airlines, bolts and bracketry, couple of fancy airbags. These are all the plates for the airbags and some big old Duke or brackets there. How about I film and you put it together? Maybe we should enjoy a beer and read some of this. Although I kind of, for me anyway, like I think most men, instructions is like stopping and asking for directions. Well, we'll see how we make out Remington. I kind of like just looking at the picture and you just make it look like that. Like, why do we got to read it all? Should be fairly straightforward. You sure you don't want to put this together and I film?
I'm pretty busy.
I mean, just looking from the pictures, all these steel discs are the same, so they all got to go on there, and then you just got to have the port open for the air fitting there, and then these brackets can only go one way because they got the tapered holes for these cap style screws, and then it's got the cutout for the air fitting. So we're just gonna go ahead and get a couple of those started up in there. Gotta hold my tongue right. There's something irritating me.
Not me.
Oh, yeah. Alrighty, see. Probably should have read the instructions. I don't think I'm going to be able to tighten this. I'm supposed to do it hand tight. And then, what was it?
Hand tight and then 1/2 a turn.
1.5?
1/2 turn, yeah.
We'll thread the fitting in the next one first before putting this plate on, because now I can't get my freaking wrench on it. And then we'll flip it over. Another one of these plates. These ones got an arrow etched in there, and it says that the arrow is supposed to be pointing the opposite side of the fitting. So the fitting's on this side, so we'll put this guy on this side. And 2 more of these fellows. So we're getting there. Figure we'll just pre-assemble these guys and then we'll lift the truck up and have a gander at how we're gonna sneak them in there. This will be the left side. And we just gotta assemble that one for the right side. And then hopefully we can bolt them in. We got them all pre-assembled, so now we'll lift it up and see what else we got to do underneath to get them in. Okay, honey bunny. So I'm almost positive we're going to have to get rid of these bump stops. So there's a hole in there, but it goes quite a ways. I can't even reach. So I'm assuming there's going to be a nut up in there or a bolt. So I'm going to have to find whatever size it is. So it's a 15 mil bolt up in here. We got our suspension snub block out of there. And then this guy, I believe we're going to have to move because I'm pretty sure the bracket's going to hit that. So we'll let that dangle for a second. So I don't know. This one says R, so it's got to be the right side. I think we just stick it up in there and then see if it's going to fit. Oh, plenty of room. The U-bolt's gonna go on the front side around the frame there, and then we got one hole here. There is a hole in the frame, so I think we gotta fish a bolt through here. They do give you that little wire fish tool thing in the bag. So, okay, yeah, that looks like that'll fit. This might not be too bad. In the kit, that's the bolt they want you to drop down through the frame to go to the top bracket there. They give you this handy dandy little bolt fish tool. So you just thread it on. It's kind of like a helicoil kind of deal. Just thread it on that way. You can tug your bolt. So then we just send this wire end through the hole there, through that hole there. Is that washer gonna fit? Oh,
There you go.
just like so. What do you call that?
A nice one.
Yeah, girl. In all fairness, though, you probably could put these bolts in without the fish tool. I mean, these holes are pretty big. I'm pretty sure I could fish the bolt through there with my fingers and poke her through, but it is handy to have this wire fish thing.
But if you just put it in there by hand, wouldn't it be hard to like maneuver it through that little hole?
Not when you got magic mechanic fingers. So then that one bolt goes through that existing hole back there, and then you got these long U-bolts. Just drop them over top. They're gonna go, I'm just gonna get them started on here. Oh, I'm just gonna drop that right there. Thank you, darling. Okie dokie, and then we got to figure out the brackets for mounting the bottom. So then you just got these little wedge brackets, I guess. It's got a little hook end, which is going to hook under this pad on the axle, and then these are going to butt up against that bracket. I'm sure you're supposed to have it on jack stands or something so you can actually bolt it all together, because right now it's hanging. We're stretching the airbag further than it's probably supposed to be.
I want to say I seen it in the instructions.
Did you read the instructions?
I mean, I glanced at the pictures.
How dare you? We're winging it, baby.
My bad.
Although I do think you're probably supposed to have the weight on it when you tighten it up.
Probably.
Did you read that in the instructions?
I did not.
Maybe we should have a beer and read that in the instructions.
Okay.
So everything seems to be falling in place not too bad. So I've got my tranny jack underneath the shock tower here. So I'm just going to lift the axle a little bit, being careful not to jack the truck right off the freaking hoist.
Yeah.
Well, we're just gonna take the weight of the axle off of here. We're all loose again, so I'll snug these fellas up. You want to make sure everything's still lining up straight and even. Just clears the brake line there. We're looking good. This one's a bit of a bugger though, because you got to be able to hold that freaking bolt from spinning, and I can't even hardly get a wrench in there, so she's a bit of a treat.
Hold it with your magic mechanic finger.
Oh. Story of my life. It's not long enough. My socket wasn't long enough to get over the U-bolt, so I'll finish her off with the old ratchet wrench. Snug her up. And then we can hook up the airlines, I guess. This is, well, we'll have to zip tie this fella out of the way from the exhaust and whatnot. But yeah, we're basically there, bibs.
Perfect.
So we've got the airbags all bolted into place, and then they give you the two, well, it's just one airline with two ends on it. So I think what we'll do is we'll cut this in half. That way we got an even amount side to side. And then I think here and here, if I drill two holes right there, I can put those two guys side by side. Then he can access them here. It's pretty simple. Don't have to drill to the bumper or any major brackets, and this should be strong enough. So I don't know, I'm reaching around back there. I don't feel anything back there that I could poke a hole in. So, we're gonna, a little bit of guesswork, right? So I think right around here. Boom, shagalaga. Okay, baby. We gotta hook these up. So I've got the two plastic air lines running from the rear bumper, and then I ran them
Don't see it.
right here, baby.
Okay.
So then went through the hole in the cross brace there, and then snuck it down the frame rail so it is out of the way from the exhaust and everything. And then it popped out of the hole in the frame there. So then I just got to cut this short, and then we just got to, these things here, the fittings and the airbags are just a push connection for the plastic airlines. So all I'll do is cut this guy probably right around here like so. And then this fella, oh, we might even be able to go shorter. Yeah, let's go a little bit shorter. Just like so. Boom. We're hooked up, baby. Same thing on the other side. All right, like so. Tickety-boo. So, and then we got the holes drilled in here. They're side by side. So obviously the left one will be for the left side. Right one will be for the right side. And then you just put your caps on after you set your air pressures. They stay nice and clean. Now that's what I call a nice one. That's a nice clean install. Everything's tucked away.
It does look good, yeah.
You're welcome, Remington. All right, airbags are all installed. Brakes are all done. All thing that's left is put the tires on, and then we'll let her down, and we'll check those airbags, put a little bit of air in them, make sure they hold air, and then investigate the beer fridge. Oh!
Hi-yo.
Wait, throw the other side on? Can you see that? Wait.
I got 3 of them on, and the 2 old boys are still struggling with one.
Can't find the hole.
Put a little hair around it.
There. Don't come off now. Did you get that?
First thing you want to do after doing a brake job is hop in the vehicle and pump the brake pedal a bunch of times so you take up all the play in the brakes. Because first application, the pedal's going to go right to the floor. And if you just hop in it, put her back, and go out the shop, you hit the brakes, you're going to have nothing. You'll end up driving right through the shop door. Ask me how I know. So, first brake application, right to the floor. So if you're you put this thing in reverse and you're like doop-de-doo backing up, it's like, oh, I got plenty of time. You hit the brakes, you're just going to keep it on, and you're going to drive into something. So you want to pump it a few times. Oh, see, now it's nice and firm. There you go. And then, like I said, you know, after popping this cap loose at the beginning of the job, make sure it is on there and tight. You don't want brake fluid to be splashing all over the place. So now, I guess we should fire it up. Make sure those belts stay on there after putting all those belts on. And then we'll set the air in the airbags and make sure they work. Fire in the hole.
So you didn't fly out yet.
They're on there. They're going round and round. Yep, no squealing. I would call that a success.
Or a nice one.
or a nice one. Or tickety-boo. Okie dokie, artichokey. Let's see if these things actually work. I think, you know, 70 PSI is kind of like 70 to 80, I think is max. So, well, that truck's lifting up as we do it.
Oh, yeah.
There's 50 in the left one. FD in the right one. Instant lift kit. So everything seems to be working. The airbags are working. They're holding air. Everything's good. And it is one way of getting a bit of a lift out of these trucks. So I'm going to air him back down. There's no reason he doesn't need to be driving around a half ton with 50 pounds of air in these bags. You know, he wants the nice ride of the half ton. So just watch how much this drops. Like, that's got to be a good 2-inch lift when you air these things up. Oh yeah, it's sitting level now. It was jacked way up in the back end before.
Yeah.
All right, well, hope you enjoyed that video. You know, it's just a little bit of a service one, you know, changing his brakes, you know, those stretch belts. I could have lived without doing those. Those engineers, yeah, definitely not having a beer with those fellas. But we got the brakes all serviced, all on there, and then installed those airlift, the airbags on there. So now he can haul the heavy trailer with this, you know, we'll call it a heavy half ton now. So, you know what? Thanks for the help, baby. You know,
No problem.
Doing these videos together is quite a bit. I like it. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let me know. Put it in the comments if you guys enjoy some of these, you know, the automotive video service, you know, figure, you know, mix it up a little bit. Try and get more videos out, you know, aside from just the snowmobile content. And, you know, we are doing the side-by-side smart car project too. So leave it in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. And we appreciate all the support, you know, all the subscribers and the viewers going to the website, www.rednecks-dirtyhands.com, getting the stickers and the merch and all that stuff. And don't forget, anybody that gets some merch from now until July 1st, Canada Day, is entered to win the Snap-on Prestage and Christmas tree for racing. So you'll be automatically entered to win. We'll ship it out to Christina's going to handpick somebody.
Yeah. I do it live too, so there's...
Okay, yeah.
Watch,
Maybe have a beer, but we'll do it too.
Yeah.
So look forward to that. And yeah, as always, cheers and take her easy. Cheers, baby.
Cheers.